Adam Figman did a very, very great job, real good job with as a senior editor, formerly of Slam Magazine. Now he's with a pretty neat site, Cycle. We'll talk a little bit about that. He's the editorial director, and I'll tell you, they do a bunch of everything. You got sports, you got culture, you got technology, but we're going to talk a little hoops with Adam for a couple moments. Kind enough to join us. How you been, Adam?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing real well. I appreciate a couple moments. And all right, let's get into, before we get into the games themselves, initial reaction to, and by all accounts, it looks like it's going to be a done deal with Hornacek as the new head coach of the Knicks.
I like it. I'm a fan of Jeff Hornacek. I think he did some good things in Phoenix for sure, and kind of got hurt by a lot of the injuries and the front office turmoil that they had over there. I think it's a good hire. I'm curious to see how Jeff Hornacek runs the triangle, or if he runs the triangle. I think that'll kind of be the big question, is if he's going to go with the classic Phil Jackson system. They played a little bit more up-tempo in Phoenix, kind of relied on three-pointers, and I think that works. It at least worked that one year a couple of years ago when they were basically on the border of making the playoffs with a pretty surprising roster. So that's the real question headed into the season, is what kind of offense they're going to play. But if they can, I'm a fan of them using that three-point heavy offense. They have Kristaps who can even slide to the five in crunch time if need be, but can certainly play the four. And that's the real question for me.
I'm not enamored by the hire. And look, it's always an emotional, it's a knee-jerk reaction. I was a big fan of Frank Vogel. I also was a huge fan of Thibodeau, because I think you have to start to reinstall that Knicks defense. I'm not talking about the 90s Knicks defense, because you're never going to get that again. But some semblance of defense. My concern is this. I don't think this is a Phil Jackson hire. I mean, you're going to bring in a guy that has no familiarity with the triangle. Does that tell you that they're going to scrap the triangle?
I don't know. It certainly tells me that they're going to be open to it. But just to counter what you said, I mean, have any of the Phil Jackson hires really worked so far? Maybe it's time to.
Your fair point. Triangle. No, I mean, well, when you hire two or three guys every single year because they're playing bad basketball,
right? You kind of got to look around and be like, what's the pattern here that's going wrong? Like, why is this not working ever?
I don't know. You're absolutely right, and you start to, if you're a Knicks fan, you start to say to yourself, are they ever going to become that free agent destination again?
Right, and they should. I mean, look, it's New York City. Obviously, New York City has its own cachet. They have a superstar in Carmelo Anthony. They have a rookie, or now about to be a second-year player in Kristaps Porzingis, who looks like, outside of Karl Towns, he's basically, you would take him over anyone in that class of players. So there's a lot looking up. Like, there's really no reason why they shouldn't have their pick of the mill when it comes to coaches, when it comes to free agents. The fact that that's not really the case it kind of speaks to some bigger issues.
No, I think you're right. Let's move on, a team in our backyard, the Philadelphia 76ers. Again, everyone has their own philosophy. They have their own thoughts. They have their own opinions for the 76ers. The bottom line is the basketball gods, obviously, and the percentages smiled upon them kindly the other night, getting the number one overall draft pick. If you are the Sixers right now on the 19th of May, what route are you going? Are you going Ingram? Are you going Simmons?
I'm going Simmons. I think he can play he could play the guard positions if need be. He can certainly handle the ball. He can certainly pass. He's big, but so is Ingram. To me, it's just Simmons there's just too much potential. I know the college career was certainly underwhelming. I think there were a lot of issues at that school that maybe went underreported as far as behind the scenes thing. The team didn't really work. I don't think they were really cohesive as a unit. I think there are some bigger issues there that didn't really speak to Ben Simmons' personal talent level, which I think is off the charts. I have no doubt that Brandon Ingram is going to be a superstar in this league one day, but to me, when you look at what Simmons could potentially become, he has to be the pick at number one.
Again, a couple minutes with Adam Figman. Again, it's a new site, thecycle.media. It's sports, popular culture, technology, athletes. Got a pretty cool section called The Recycle. Definitely check him out online. I want to counter something you said about Simmons. I made a point of this the other day, and I don't know how much you're going to read into this or maybe just laugh it off, and that's okay. I always look at some guys where I say, does the talent match the head? And would I be reading too much into Simmons knowing that he was going to be gone after a year? They didn't make the tournament. They didn't care to play in the NIT, and he was just looking going forward, to his NBA career. I mean, do you see with personality or any characteristics that you would say, okay, that might be that one red flag, or come on, Rich, that's just how it is. If we were in his place, we'd do the same thing.
I mean, look, it's possible, but again, it's hard to know for sure, and I don't think it's really fair to just use that as a reason why we should devalue him as a basketball player just yet.
I think he's going to be a great player.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't see it. I mean, do we really know how much do we really know about Brandon Ingram to the point where we're willing to say that he's 100% the savior of anything? I mean, he was great at Duke. Certainly seems like he has a great future ahead of him, but it seems like he's almost getting the benefit of the doubt when it comes to the Ben Simmons thing, because people are just assuming he's like the counter to what Ben Simmons is as a personality. And I don't know, I wish I knew more about the situation at LSU.
Yeah.
Which I think that we're all kind of assuming that things went bad there. We're blaming it on Ben when he was an 18-year-old kid. Like, where's the blame for the coach in this situation? How come Ben Simmons, how come their offense was so stagnant when you have the most talented player in the country? How come a team that should have been, not maybe a championship contender, but certainly at the least an NCAA tournament contender, doesn't make the tourney, decides the team quits and says, screw it, we're not going to NIT. Where's the outrage over the coach and the fact that he couldn't really pull these guys together? I think that there were kind of bigger issues there.
It's a fair point. It's definitely it's a fair point. You're absolutely right. Let's go back to the Sixers for a moment. Then I want to get your thoughts on the playoffs as a whole. We can kind of gloss over, skip over the Toronto-Cleveland series. But when you look at the Sixers right now, and everyone's screaming, they're going to have too many bigs, they're going to have too many bigs, you don't know what you're going to get. Do you think Embiid is ever going to be I don't want to say productive player in the league, because, again, he has not stepped out on the floor yet. Do you think... Mm-hmm. First of all, do you think he's fully healed? For those that you speak with or spoken to, or do you believe that this is not going to be something that's going to follow him around or linger throughout the course of his career?
I do think that. I don't think that anyone on this planet, not even Joel Embiid, will be able to give you a true answer on that, because it's impossible to know, especially with big guys. Like, these injuries just linger at times, and sometimes these big guys just can get through it. It's really hard to tell. I just think if you're the 76ers, you have to bet on it, right? Like, there were too many. They're betting on a lot. Getting good in the NBA is a risk.
Yep.
I don't know. I just wouldn't. I certainly wouldn't trade him. I don't know. I think I would just kind of roll the dice on him. I just think that that's the move. It's kind of there's not really a good answer to it, though. Who knows? I don't know. I wish I had a better answer for you.
No, it's an honest answer. That's all I asked for. If you had to trade one player, would you consider trading Okafor or Noel?
Ooh, well, I guess the good answer is if you're thinking about Embiid becoming what you hope he could be as a Sixers fan, right?
Yeah.
Then you would want to trade. Okafor,
yep.
Right? Because that's the better counter, is having Noel there to kind of be alongside Embiid. Whereas if you think that Embiid's future isn't, I don't know. I think the answer is if you have to get rid of one, then you would move Okafor, just because you kind of are a little bit more sure about what his future is. You know that he doesn't play that well alongside Noel, at least so far. I think if you're going to bat with Okafor and Embiid together, that's potentially two players that enjoy playing in the post, whereas Noel can kind of freelance a little bit, at least as a super athletic specimen that he is. I think you move Okafor, but I don't know. The question is, when do you do this? Do you do it now? Do you wait till training?
Exactly.
Do you wait till the season starts?
Yeah, right.
There's the real question.
Yeah, no, and again, that's something
when do you do the evaluations for this stuff?
Yeah, you're right, and that's sometimes you have to be careful what you wish for in these situations, because they do have a lot of flexibility in that regard. Let's quickly move to the Western Conference Finals. Golden State and Oklahoma City. I was shocked the Thunder won Game 1. Again, they just know how to dominate on the glass. Last night we saw Curry, have his moments, and then boom, Curry's Curry. I thought the 4-point play was the turning point of the game. That's a game that they had to win. Is this a 7-game series? And if so, who do you give the edge to right now?
I think it's potentially a 7-game series. I give the edge to Golden State because I just haven't seen any proof that they, as a unit, can really be stopped for more than a single game at a time. Like, they've lost games before, and then you see it, and then,
they turn it up.
Back the very next they bounce back the very next game. We rarely see them kind of in the dumps for like the 2 to 3 game stretches ever. So it's going to be hard for the Thunder, in my mind, to win 2 games in a row at any point. But yeah, I think when you have Westbrook and Durant, the first game was basically won by Westbrook by himself, more or less, when he went off in that like late third quarter into the fourth. So you kind of almost guaranteed to get probably a second win for sure, just because, they're going to go off eventually. I think that the Thunder are going to get 2 wins. I think they could potentially get 3 wins, but I just don't have the balls to sit here and say that the Thunder are going to win the series because of where Golden State's, because of what they've proven,
Yeah, sure.
Their system is too reliable.
I agree. Listen, I agree. I have Golden State winning in 6. Before I let you get out of here, how about the Cycle.media? What are you guys doing with this new site, this new venture?
Yeah, sure. So it's a super modern media company. We're going to produce a bunch of sports content, a bunch of popular culture content. The company, it also does athlete representation. So they represent a couple of athletes with their social media accounts and help them get set up with brands. But on our end, I'm kind of the editorial director, so we're going to have, we have a website in the works that exists already. It's thecycle.media, but we're building it out a lot over the next few months. So you'll see athlete interviews, you'll see TV recaps, you'll see movie reviews, interviews with musicians and all sorts of, all sports across the board. So there should be some pretty fun content on there for everybody.
Well, I'll send you a list later on of 5 guys that got to stop tweeting.
Please do.
Yeah.
Please do. I need to clear up my feed anyway.
Yeah, exactly. You and I both, my friend. Adam, I appreciate it, pal. Look forward to getting you back on, and appreciate a couple moments. Good luck with the venture.
Absolutely. Anytime. Thank you.
All right, you got it. Adam Figman, good stuff with Cycle.media.